Do you ever have those days where you feel like you are just so desperate to talk to God and you just want to pray and pray, but it feels like something is in the way? Like mentally or emotionally, you can't just, it feels like you're so desperate that you can't get the path clear to talk to God. I have definitely felt that way. And it feels like this. It feels like, okay, whenever I was little, I don't know how many other people lived like this. When I was little at my grandparents' house, we had spring water, and the water came out of the mountain and down onto a back road behind our house. And sometimes the water line would get clogged up. We would have a good full force, and this is a natural water line, a good full force of water most of the time. But every now and then, it would start getting a little less water, a little bit less of a trickle. And then sometimes it would feel like it was just almost completely blocked. And then my papa would get his boots on and stuff because it was real muddy down there on the back road. He'd get his boots on and he'd walk down the mountain and go down there and clean out the pipe. Sometimes there would be little rocks. Sometimes there would be debris like sticks, twigs. And then other times, little bugs or salamanders would get into the pipe. And the bigger the thing, the object, the more clogged it would be, right? And then he would get a stick or whatever, little hose, and he'd clean it out and make sure the water that was going into the reservoir was clean. And that just, it makes complete sense that that is the same way that our prayer line, our communication line with God, is like a water hose, a mountain spring. When we have things in the way, like little pebbles could be little seeds of bitterness or anger that we might be holding on to. And imagine your prayer line going to God. It's just like a big line, a big path. And you want that path to be completely clear. But sometimes little rocks and pebbles and pieces of dirt and sticks get in the way. And the whole flow of the water, your whole prayer, and God's communication is two-way. It's not as clear. And it feels like things aren't getting through back and forth as clearly, or even sometimes at all. So if you've got a salamander in your water line, you got to clean it out. And when you get all that junk out, the salamander could be like, that's a big object. So in our prayer line, that could be if you can't forgive somebody, if somebody has wronged you, or if you have done something so wrong and you need forgiveness. It's a big object, that hinders your ability to be able to pray to God. It's a weight, an emotional weight, a mental weight, and that blocks your pathway to God. So think of it like the water line. Clear that water line out, and you get a rush of good, cold, strong force water. You clear all the rocks and sticks and little branches and salamanders. You clean them out, and you get a big rush of water. Okay? In your pathway to God, you clean out all those little pebbles of bitterness and jealousy, anger, or the big like forgiveness. You need forgiveness, or you need to forgive someone. When you can get rid of all that negativity, that's like you're pulling the pebbles and the sticks. You're pulling all those objects out of your pathway to God. And when you get them out of the way, you have a clear, straight shot straight to God. Your prayers go straight through. You don't feel like there's anything muddled. And you can hear God's answer so much more clearly when you don't have all that clogging up your water line, blocking that pathway, your prayer line to God. That is one of the most precious and special gifts that God ever gave us, is to be able to communicate with Him through our mind, through our prayer line. Nothing can ever take away the ability to pray. Nothing, nobody can ever take that away from us. Our communication with God is solid. We can always communicate with Him. So whenever those objects get in the way, we can remove those objects with God's help. That's up to us. We can clear that path line. So if your prayer life, your communication with God, your prayer to God doesn't seem to be as clear and open and obvious and warm and comforting, think about all these objects that you might need to clear out of your pathway to open up a straight, wonderful, beautiful, clear line to God.